This is section 8.4, 8th grade math, chapter 4, dealing with linear equations. This is good stuff. This is definitely things that you should come into 8th grade being proficient at. The more you know and the better you are with this, the easier it's going to be when we take it up to the next level. So having mastered all of these components is extremely important in order to be proficient and to build off of the material. So let's start. Find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph y equals 6x minus 5. So one of the things that we need to discuss is we have three linear equations. Linear equations that you learned in 7th grade. The first one is slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form looks like y equals mx plus b. The next one is going to be standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. And then the third one that you should have learned is point slope. Point slope form. Point slope looks like this: y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. When we have a number below, we call that sub. That means it's a subscript, meaning below. Above would be superscript, like exponents, but when it's down below, it's just differentiating between this x and this. So it's almost like this is a point and this is another point. All right, slope-intercept. So the things that we can find in slope-intercept is the slope. Hello, that's why it's called slope-intercept. That is going to be the coefficient of x, or the m, and then the b value is the intercept, and it's the y-intercept. X and y are going to be points on that line. They will be solutions. In standard form, we only have points on the line. A, B, and C don't count for anything. There are actually no specific values. A, B, and C don't stand for intercepts. They don't stand for points or anything of that nature. They are coefficients. This is a coefficient of x, this is a coefficient of y, and this is the constant. There are stipulations about A, B, and C. When we put them in standard form, they need to be whole numbers, no fractions, no decimals, and A needs to be positive. Point slope form. So this time we definitely have our points, x and y, much like xy here is definitely a point. And then you have a secondary point, what color are we going to do that? We'll do it in pink. You think that that's the color of the sweatshirts this year? Maybe. Could it? Oh, that's right. Pink wasn't a choice. All right, so we'll do pink. So x sub 1 and y sub 1 is actually the point that they're talking about. And then the slope, much like m, is going to be the slope. So that's why this is called point slope. You can pull a point and the slope. Standard form is just your general standard form that is consistent throughout any country when you look at math, algebra 1. And then slope-intercept, you get your slope and your y-intercept. So when we're given this, we notice it's in slope-intercept form because it's isolated for y. When y is isolated, we know that it's in slope-intercept form. We have our x, we have our constant. So 6 is going to be our coefficient of x, or our slope, and negative 5 is going to be my y-intercept. So the slope is 6. My y-intercept is going to be the constant. I just wanted the color. Y-intercept is going to be negative 5. So those are the two important pieces of information. We would plot the y-intercept and then we would utilize the slope. Slope is the rate of change between our x's and y's from one point to the next. So those would be our answers right there. Find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph. Okay, notice it's not in any format. This is not point slope. This is not standard, and it is not slope-intercept form. So since we want the slope and the y-intercept, since I'm looking for the slope and the y-intercept, I'm going to put it in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form would isolate the y. It would get y by itself. So I need to get rid of that -1. What gets rid of a -1 when it's being added to y is to do the inverse of subtracting 1. And I'm going, which is adding 1. And I'm going to line it with my constant. That gives me y equals 3x plus 9.4. And the slope is going to be 3, and the y-intercept is going to be 9.4. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Here's my coefficient of x, which gives me my slope, and the constant, whatever is being added and subtracted, is going to be my y-intercept. Find the slope and the y-intercept. So again, right now it's kind of in standard form. My x and y is on the left. My constant is on the right. This is not acceptable for a final answer because this is a fraction, not a whole number, and it's negative. So we would not count that as a legitimate standard form. But we want to, again, find the slope and the y-intercept. So we're going to solve for y. So we're going to get rid of things being added and subtracted first. So we have a -1/2 x. I'm going to add 1/2 x to both sides. That cancels, leaving me with 2y equals 1/2 x plus 7. And now I got to get rid of this 2 because I still need my y by itself. I'm not going to divide by 1/2 or divide by 2. I'm actually going to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, multiplication has 2 reciprocals. The easy one, which is division, and then the other one, less known or less thought about, would be multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal would be 1/2. When we multiply, we have to multiply both terms on the right side. We multiply this, we're left with y, because any number times its reciprocal gives me a 1. And now I have to multiply this 1/2 times 1/2 x, which gives me 1/4 x, and then 1/2 by 7, which gives me 7/2. Very, very simple. There is no difficulty of multiplying 7 times 1/2. And now my variable is isolated. Now I can pull out the slope, which is the coefficient of x, and the y-intercept. It's okay to have fractions. We have 1/4 as my slope and 7/2 as my y-intercept. That is really the best. If you can do that, you're looking good. I'm assuming a lot of students forget to multiply the 1/2 by both terms. All right, graphing. So since we're graphing and it's isolated for y, we know that it's in slope-intercept form. So since it's in slope-intercept form, we can pull out the slope. The slope would be -1/2. Now notice this negative is outside. We've gone over this in a previous video. That negative can either go to the numerator or the denominator. It can't go to both because there's only one. So I'm just going to pop it to the numerator, and then my y-intercept is going to be -5. So I'm going to graph my y-intercept first. Always graph y-intercept first. Graph y-intercept first, because that's a point. Slope goes from point to point. So I can't utilize the slope if I don't have a point. So I have to graph the y-intercept first, which is -5. We'll go to -5, make a dot. And now we're going to utilize the slope. So this is -1/2. So -1 means down 1, and +2 means right 2. Remember, slope is rise over run. Rise over run. Rise, you can go up or down. Run, you can either go right or left. Up is positive, down is negative, right is positive, left is negative. So we have a -1, that would be down 1, and then +2 would be right 2. So from my y-intercept, I'm going to go down 1 and right 2, and I'm going to make a dot. Now, I can go down 1, right 2 to find my third dot, or I can go from here, I can go up 1, left 2. So that would be the inverse or the reverse of that. And now I'm going to connect my dots. And I'm going to do a better job of connecting my dots. There we go. That's good. I'm going to draw arrows on it. And I'm going to label my points. That's -2, -4. This is 0, -5. And this point would be 2, -6. So we always want to label 3 points. We want to plot 3 points. We want to label our points. And we want to connect those dots and make a line with arrows. And those are the important things that you need to have when graphing a line. So 3 things. Number 1 is you want 3 points. You want 3 coordinates. You want a line with arrows. So those are the important things. All right, now we're graphing. This is standard form. So there's 2 things I can do. I can move it into slope-intercept form, or I can understand what I can utilize in standard form. You should know that standard form, you're able to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. We know that all x-intercepts have a y value of 0, and the x value is going to be my x-intercept. Y-intercepts have a x value of 0, and then we'll solve for the y. So every single y-intercept has 0 for their x value. Every y-intercept will have a 0 in the x location. Every x-intercept will have a 0 in the y location. So if I want to find what my x-intercept is, I would just plug in 0 for y. So if I want to find my x-intercept, I plug in y equals 0. So -3x plus 6y equals 12. We're going to plug in that 0 for y. 6 times 0 is 0. And then -3x plus 0 is -3x. And we solve for x. Divide by -3, x equals -4. So my x-intercept, when y equals 0, x is going to equal -4. So I will replace this x with a -4. So that is going to be my x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis. This is the x-axis along here. So my point is -4, 0. If I want to find the y-intercept, I'm going to substitute. I'm going to do the same thing that I did over here. To find my y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. In the same equation, -3x plus 6y equals 12. We're going to plug in a 0 for x. -3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 6y is 6y. Divide by 6. Y equals 2. That is going to be my y-intercept. So when I plug in 0 for x, I'm going to get 2 for y. So where's that point? That's on the y-axis. It crosses the y-axis at 0, 2. I have 2 points now. I have my x-intercept and my y-intercept. I just need 2 points in order to graph a line. Let's make them a little bit closer to those intersections. We're going to draw arrows on them. And then we're going to label the points. That's -4, 0. And this is 0, 2. Now, When you're given standard form, you only need 2 points because those are logically the 2 points that you derive because you're getting the x and y intercept. So the 3 things that I want are 2 points, 2 coordinates, and a line with an arrow. So that would be the proper graphing of that equation. Now this is in slope-intercept form. I know it's in slope-intercept form because y is isolated. So it's going to tell me what the y-intercept is and the slope. This is the slope, and then the y-intercept is whatever is being added and subtracted. Well, there's nothing there, so my slope equals 2/3, and my y-intercept equals 0. So I'm going to go for my y-intercept at 0, crosses the y-axis at 0, and then I'm going to use the slope. So 2/3 is up to right 3. So from the origin, up to right 3. Up to right 3. And let's connect those dots. Oh, that was nice. That was really good. Make arrows. Label my points 0, 0. We have 3, 2, and we have 6, 4. That's pretty quick. So that's a nice way of showing how to graph those relatively quickly if you know what you're doing. Since it's in slope-intercept form, I don't really have to do much here. All right, which lines are parallel? Not which lines look parallel, but which lines are parallel. So when we have to find parallel lines, we know something. Parallel lines have equal slopes. Perpendicular lines have the opposite reciprocal. Equal slope, and this is opposite reciprocal. So here we go. So let's find the slope of each of these. If we go for the red, we're going to take 2 points and we're going to see how much we rise and how much we run, how much we go left and right, how much we go up and down. So we go up 1, 2, 3. So that's up 3, and then we go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right 6. So the slope of the red line is going to be up 3, right 6. Up is positive. Right is also positive. So 3, 6 simplifies to 1/2. So the slope of the red line is going to be 1/2. Let's look at the blue line. Blue line, ooh, okay, that's a little interesting. We go up 1.5, and we go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the blue line, we go up 1.5 and right 6. I think we did. Yep. And so 1.5 over 6 simplifies to, that's 15 over 60, which is 1/4. I think that's 1/4. Yep. And now let's do the green line. So those two lines are not parallel, nor are they perpendicular. But let's do the green line. So we go up 1, 2, and then right 1, 2, 3, 4. So up 2, right 4. Up is positive, right is positive, and that simplifies to 1/2. So which two lines are parallel? Well, the red and green, because they have the same slope of 1/2. So red and green lines are going to be our parallel. And if we have to explain it, they have the same slope. That's a good question. All these are good questions. I love questions. I love math. All right. here we go. Now, the points of the table lie on a line. Find the slope of the line. Okay, so the slope is going to be the rate of change between each point. So what is my x's changing? Well, that's +1, and this is +1, and this is +1, and this is +3, this is +3, and this is +3. So the rate of change is the difference in y's over the difference of x's. A lot of students will say 1/3, but that's x over y. That's not correct. So it's actually 3 over 1, positive 3 over 1. So it has a slope of 3. Why did I do the other? Why didn't I just pick 1 point? Because it has to be constant. It has to be the same rate of change. It has to be 3 amongst every single point. Let's take an example. What if I went from -4 to 5? What's that rate of change? Well, that would be +9, correct? And then if we went from the same point, we'd have to go from here to here, right? If we're going to look at the change in y's, we want to look at the change in x's, and that would be a +3. Okay, so what would that slope? That would be the y's over the x's. That would be 9 over 3, which still simplifies to 3. So it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick, just that you that it's constant. That it doesn't matter which 2 points, they're all going to have a slope or a rate of change of 3. Very important. All right. Next question, number 9. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the given points. So since it's slope-intercept form, we want y equals mx plus b. And slope-intercept form, we're going to fill in for 2 pieces of information. We're going to fill in for the slope, and we're going to fill in for the y-intercept. We don't fill in for x and y because the x and y are points. And since there's an infinite number of points, we wouldn't fill it in because that would be just one specific situation. So we're just going to fill in for the slope, which is the rate of change from one point to the next. So we'll find the slope first. We go up 1, 2, 3, 4, up 4, and left 1, 2, 3. So up 4, left 3, up is positive, left is negative. So my slope is going to be -4/3. So y equals -4/3 x. Mr. Mack, it says 4 over -3. Remember that negative can be in the denominator or the numerator. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one. Now my y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. Where does it cross the y-axis? At -1. So my y-intercept is going to be -1. So the line in slope-intercept form for the equation, for the line that passes through the given points, is y equals -4/3 x minus 1. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line passes through the given points. Okay, so we still need those 2 things. We still need to fill in for m and b, where m represents my slope. How can I find slope when given 4 points? Well, you only need 2 points, so pick 2 points. Pick 2 points and see what the rate of change is. So what does it go? How does it go? That's +2, right? That's horrible. Sorry. Let's do this. That's +2. And this is, +0. We add nothing. So my slope is going to be my y's over my x's. So my y's is 0 over 2, which equals 0. So my slope is going to be 0. Y equals 0x. And then here's a little tricky one. Not sure if anybody saw this, but my y-intercept, remember my y-intercept, all y-intercepts have an x value of 0. So it has an x value of 0. So notice that this is actually my y-intercept because my x is 0, so this represents my y-intercept, which is 2. So I do 2. Now, we would never leave this in this form. We can write it to step through, but this is not simplified. So if we simplify, 0x is just 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. So the equation for that line is y equals 2. Technical question there. And that's why it's really important to do so many different problems. Don't just do the easy ones. Don't just do the typical ones. Find the hard ones. Find the ones that are confusing. Find the 1% questions. This is a 1% question. This is that tricky one. This is the one you're going to see on the Loyola test. This is the comprehension one. This is the question we're going to see on HSPT, on the STAR testing. When you have to take your placement test for Marymount or NDA. These are the tough questions. So write an equation in point slope form. So remembering what point slope is, y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. And we're filling in for these two things. So we're going to fill in for the slope, and then we fill in for the point. I think we did that pink. And we're going to fill in our y value and our x value for a point. All right, so the first thing is we have 2 points. This is the first point. This is the second point. Remember, we can find slope using this equation. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So what does the 2 and the 1 mean underneath? Well, that's 0.1, and this is 0.2. So this is x sub 1, my x value in my first point. This is my y value in the first point. This is the x value in the second point. This is the y value in the second point. So they're talking the 1 and the 2 just differentiates between the points. So when we see y sub 2, we go y value in the second point, which is 3, minus y sub 1, which is 1, over x sub 2, which is 4, minus my x sub 1, which is negative 4. Different negative. This is this negative. Very important to differentiate. This negative is this negative. And then this negative is that negative. So don't mix that up. That is where most students will make their mistake. 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus negative 4 is 8. So I have a slope of 1/4. So now I can put that in for m, and then I'm going to pick a point. What do you want? You want y sub 1? Sure, we can do y sub 1. So now we're going to substitute y minus my y sub 1 value, which is 1, equals my slope, which is 1/4 times the quantity x minus my x sub 1. There's that negative 4 again. And we would want to simplify that. We can't leave it with double signs. That's not okay. We get y minus 1 equals 1/4 times the quantity x plus 4. That is the correct representation for a line in point slope form for the line that passes through these 2 points. Good. Good. If you got that right, that's a good one. All right, the number y of new vocabulary words that you learn after x weeks is represented by the equation y equals 15x. So notice that we say y is the new vocabulary words and x represents the weeks. So x is going to be, this is going to be weeks along the x-axis. Notice we labeled it weeks. And then our y is going to be new vocabularies on the y-axis. Okay, so when we're given information or when we don't have any points to plot, we just have an equation. So let's take this equation. It's in slope-intercept form. Let's not do that. Let's do this. We've been using yellow. So slope, it's isolated. So this is going to be my, that's going to be my slope. My y-intercept is what's being added and subtracted, which is 0. So those are 2 pieces of information I can get. My slope is 15, and my y-intercept is going to be 0. So we go down to 0. That's my first point, and then 15. So if my slope is 15, that equals 15 over 1. So 15 words to 1 week. So we go up 15 over 1 week. That's 1 point. And then we go up 15 more over 1 more week. And then we go up 15 over 1 more week. And that's really good enough. We can do a graph. Now, what's different with this one is we're going to stay at the origin. We're not going to go through there because you can't learn negative words and you can't have negative weeks. So that will have an arrow though. We can label some points. This is 345. This is 230. And this is 115. And sure, 0, 0. After 0 weeks, we've learned 0 new words. After 1 week, we have learned 15 new words, etc. So interpret the slope. You learn 15 new vocabulary words per 1 week. That's how we would interpret that. Good. How many new vocabulary words did you learn after 5 weeks? Okay, so we know our equation is y equals 15x, where x equals the number of weeks. So we can just plug in 5 for x. And some students might want to do we can say n for new words. N equals 15 W representing weeks, N equals the new words. So after 5 weeks, that's 25, so that's 75. So we've learned 75 new words after 5 weeks. How many more vocabulary words do you learn after 6 weeks than after 4 weeks? Okay, well, 4 weeks, 4 would be 60, and 6 would be 90. So you would learn 30 more words. Now you can also understand that you're learning 15 words per week and there's a 2-week difference, so you could also calculate it in that manner. You can just mental math it, or you can understand what the question is asking you. All right, let's see what we got next. You use $90 worth of paint for a school float. The amount of money you spend is given. Notice this is in standard form. Standard form tells us what the x and y intercepts are, where x is the number of gallons of blue paint. So my x value is going to be the number of gallons of blue paint. Okay. That's x. And y is the number of gallons of white paint. Okay. Got it. Got it. So we can either solve for y and find the slope and the y-intercept, or we can solve for, we can find the x and y-intercepts. I like the x and y-intercepts, and I'm going to show you why I like x and y-intercepts. So if I'm going to find the x-intercept, remember I put 0 in for y. So if I put 0 in for y, you get 18x plus 15 times 0 equals 90. 18x plus 0 equals 90. 18x equals 90. Divide by 18. Divide by 18. X equals 10 over 2, or 5. Is that 5? Yeah, 5. Equals 5. So that's my x-intercept. So I can go on my x-axis and make a dot at 5. So this tells me that when I have 5 gallons of blue paint, I have 0 gallons of white. 5, 0, because it is blue, comma, white gallons. And that's why an intercept's really nice. We know what the extreme for the blue and white are going to be. When we find the y-intercept, we remember that x equals 0. So we use the equation again, 18. We're going to plug in 0 for x, plus 15y equals 90. We're going to make 0 plus 15y equals 90. 15y equals 90. Divide by 15. And we get y equals 6, I think it is. 6. Is that correct? 6? Yeah. 6. and 3. Yeah. So we have y equals 6. Whoa. That's my, oh, right here. That's my, so this is 0, 6. So 0 gallons of blue paint and 6 gallons of white paint. So remember, we're still in blue, white. And now we would go diagonally from these. We connect these points, wherever that is down there. There you are. Let's drag it. And that goes there. And you can't go past these. You can't go past the X. You can't below the X axis. And you can't go left of the Y axis because you can't have negative gallons of paint. So these are the extremes. You can either have, and then in between, any combination in between. There are an infinite number of solutions between those. So let's see what the question asks. All right, that's good. So what's the question? Interpret the intercepts. Haha. Notice we did the intercepts. That's good. The x-intercept shows that you can buy, x was 5, I think. You can buy 5 gallons of blue. Whoa. You can find 5 gallons of blue paint when you don't buy any white paint. And the y-intercept shows that you can buy 6 gallons of white paint when you don't buy any blue paint. So we actually did a good job of understanding or knowing where they were going to go with that question. All right. That's good. Those are some really, really good questions. Hopefully you did well on that. If you didn't, hopefully you took the time to go over this video and find out what you didn't know and work on it. If you're struggling with this, that doesn't mean you don't address it. I've only given you 30 problems per week, so that provides you time to go back, watch some videos, learn, use the internet, use your notes from last year to improve on the things that you are getting wrong if you don't understand it through this. Have a good one.